Welcome back, everybody. Now that we've taken you through all of the elements of visual design in the surface plane, it's time to wrap up the course by talking about how we apply all these elements together. How do all of the planes of user experience design work well, and where do we start? Remember that fundamentally your role is to ask questions. Start by doing that. Start by understanding users, products, business models. Start by understanding processes. Start by understanding motivations and behaviors. And if you ask those questions and document your answers, you'll be well on your way to understanding how to approach the project. But then how do you determine what the first step is? The 10th step. It's definitely a challenge when you're starting out. But when you struggle to get out of the weeds, begin with focusing on a single element. Break down your problem into smaller parts. Take the scope and determine specific functional elements that need definition, that need strategy, that need content requirements. Break it down into smaller elements to help build out the bigger picture. So where do you start? I always think the best place to start is understanding as much as possible the problem that you're trying to solve. What are those pain points? Why is your client coming to you and asking you for a solution? What is the big picture? Build your understanding in the strategy plane. Get to know your client's business goals. Understand their product objectives. Recognize their key performance indicators and any limitations to accomplishing what they're looking to do. That should put you in their shoes. And if you infer the experience that they're having, it will allow you to understand, it will allow you to better understand how to approach solving the problem. And then break those problems. Break that big problem into smaller ones until you can't break it down anymore. That's also the best way to approach a project plan. If you have big elements of delivery that you need to accomplish for your client, you need to look at the lowest common denominator of time and break down your tasks into that smallest increment possible, which usually is by the hour or the day. If you can start to look at things in smaller components, then it'll become a lot more approachable. Then it'll become a lot more easier to digest the complexity of the system that you're creating. Address the micro issues to derive the macro view. Break down your problem into smaller ones and tackle each issue one by one. Those small wins will inevitably add up to one big success. That micro issue solved turns into a macro solution. Now, when you apply the elements from top to bottom, from strategy through surface, you need to understand the consequences of your choices. As we've noted before, each plane requires a sign-off, an acknowledgement from your client before you proceed to the next one. Make sure that they understand that, and make sure that you understand the decisions you make in one plane will affect the decisions you can make in the next plane. All things are connected, especially in pre-existing systems. Interfacing with external systems adds another layer of complexity, but those are also part of the questions that you should be asking. Where am I connecting this? Where am I getting this data from? Those are things that should influence your taxonomy, your content type definition, the content requirements, and the storage of that information. Ultimately, it becomes a game of give and take. Whether you have to compromise with your client or whether you have to compromise between stakeholder demands. This is all part of being a great designer that solves problems in the digital space. And here's one important rule of UX design to consider. Only by having someone think about each of the 5 planes can you address all the considerations crucial to a successful user experience. How these responsibilities are distributed is less important than making sure each of the elements is accounted for. You can't skip a step in the user experience process. You need to define the strategy, the scope, the structure, the skeleton, and finally the surface to really create an impactful and engaging user experience. And if one of those elements is missing, then your usability and ease of use, and ultimately the goal of your project, will falter. If we understand the fundamentals and we understand that the process is important, we also need to think about the periphery and the fact that technology advances continue to push the boundaries, but the theory remains true. We need to understand and apply the principles that are taught in this course and connect them to work efforts, no matter what the technology allows us to accomplish. And in the digital space, we need to consider all channels and all touch points for our customer. And I'll leave you with one final quote from Jesse James Garrett himself. It's our job to tell the difference between innovation and novelty. Don't get thrown by the shiny object syndrome that may accompany design trends. Stick to the process and make sure that you tell a great story. Thank you so much. Good luck, everyone, and we'll see you in the next course. I'm Matt Humphreys. I'm happy to be your instructor for UX Design Fundamentals. Best of luck, everyone.